Imagine this. A mysterious plague, it sweeps across continents, it's infecting people for, like, thousands of years, and then, poof, it's just gone. But hold on, this isn't the Black Death we all know about. No, this was something else, something much older. So for today's deep dive, we're focusing on the late Neolithic Bronze Age plague, the LNBA plague. This thing was circulating across Eurasia roughly between 5,000 and 2,000 years ago. Quite a run. Now, for ages, we basically only knew it existed from DNA found in ancient human remains. But now, and this is the exciting part, a new study has nailed it down in an animal for the very first time. We're talking about a 4,000-year-old domesticated sheep. So our mission today, let's unpack what this sheep discovery tells us. How did this mystery disease spread? How did it evolve? And what does it reveal about those really deep connections between us humans, our animals, and pathogens way back in prehistory? Okay, let's get into this, because honestly, this isn't just about old diseases. It's really about understanding how we ended up with the infectious diseases we deal with today.
Right. So this LNBA plague, it pops up around 5,000 years ago. And it's around for a long time, nearly 3,000 years, infecting people all across Eurasia. Then, like you said, it just disappears, vanishes. We assume it went extinct. Very mysterious.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. Unlike the plague we usually think of, the Black Death one, this ancient version, it didn't have the genetic toolkit for flea transmission.
Exactly. It lacked those specific genes.
So if fleas weren't the main way it got around, how on earth did it spread so far? I mean, we're talking vast distances here.
That was the million-dollar question.
That lack of flea transmission capability must have just, stumped scientists, right?
It really did. It was baffling.
What were people even thinking before this sheep showed up? How did they think it was moving?
Well, without that obvious flea vector, we were kind of grasping at straws regarding its zoonotic origin, where it first jumped from animals. And yeah, how it managed to cover so much ground, reaching all these different human groups. People threw around ideas, of course, maybe direct human-to-human spread, maybe some other unknown carrier. But nothing really fit the scale of its distribution.
Okay, so that leads us right to this huge breakthrough finding, identifying Yersinia pestis, that's the actual plague bug, in a 4,000-year-old sheep.
Yes, exactly. And the location is key, too. This sheep was found at Arkaim, a pastoralist site out on the Western Eurasian Steppe. It's part of what archaeologists call the Syntashta Petrovka culture. And these folks, they were really advanced for their time in managing cattle, sheep, and especially horses. Real innovators.
Right, the Syntashta. I remember reading about them.
And, importantly, we'd already found evidence of human plague infections among Syntashta individuals from other sites. So we knew the plague was in their communities.
Wow. So you think about that. We had, over 200 ancient Y. pestis genomes, all from humans. But humans aren't the natural reservoir, are they? We're usually accidental hosts for plague.
Correct.
So finding it in an animal, especially a domesticated one like a sheep, that feels like a massive piece of the puzzle just clicked into place.
It really is a huge step.
This is the first time finding this specific LNBA lineage in any animal.
The very first. It's quite significant. And the researchers, they specifically targeted bones and teeth from Bronze Age livestock. They used ancient DNA techniques. It's an approach that honestly hasn't been explored nearly enough until now. And here's the really critical part. It's the genomic comparison. They sequenced the Y. pestis genome from the sheep and found it was, quote, almost indistinguishable from a genome found in a human who died nearby around the same time period.
Wow, almost identical.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's incredibly strong evidence suggesting that humans and their livestock were catching the exact same strain of Y. pestis.
Okay, so this isn't just finding old DNA. This is the aha moment, right? This is how it might have spread without relying on fleas. The sheep is suddenly looking like the missing link.
Exactly, the bridge host.
A bridge host that completely changes how we think about its transmission. And it makes you think about spillover, doesn't it? That whole process where bugs jump from animals to people. Most human pathogens we wrestle with today actually started in animals.
That's right, a zoonotic origin.
And loads of them seem to emerge in the last, say, 10,000 years, which just happens to be when we started domesticating animals in a big way.
The timing isn't coincidental.
So, connecting those dots, what does this sheep discovery suggest about how the LNBA plague actually moved through these Bronze Age societies?
Well, putting it all together, the most plausible scenario looks something like this. The LNBA plague probably originated in some kind of wild animal reservoir. We still don't know exactly what animal, mind you.
Okay, so step one is some unknown wild animal carrying it.
Right. Then you have widespread sheep herding. These Syntashta people, with their horse technology, could cover way more ground. This likely brought them and their herds into closer contact with infected wild animals, maybe rodents or something similar.
Makes sense. More mobility, more contact.
And if you look at how plague works even today, say in parts of Asia, sheep can get infected, maybe by licking or even eating carcasses of infected wild animals.
Okay. But you also mentioned sheep are usually dead-end hosts, yet now they're bridge hosts. Can you unpack that a bit? It sounds slightly contradictory.
That's a really good point, and it's crucial here. So dead-end host means the plague doesn't really set up shop in the sheep population long-term. It doesn't usually spread easily from sheep to sheep. They get infected, but the chain often stops there.
Okay, so they're not amplifying it within the flock.
Generally, no. But, and this is the bridge part, even if they don't show symptoms, they can still pass it on locally. If an infected sheep isn't butchered carefully, or maybe if undercooked meat is eaten, that could spark a human case, or even a small cluster of cases.
Got it. So they carry it from the wild source to humans without needing to be the long-term source themselves.
Precisely. They act as that crucial link, that bridge. And they can do this without needing fleas. This idea also fits with the archaeological evidence. The LNBA plague cases we find are usually in typical burials. We don't see the massive plague pits like you get with the Black Death, which suggests more localized, limited outbreaks, not huge, sweeping epidemics.
It really drives home how that closer relationship with animals, especially through domestication, just opened up new pathways for diseases, didn't it?
Definitely. And there's another really fascinating aspect here. The evolution of this ancient plague. Unlike the later Y. pestis strains, which tend to vary quite a bit geographically, this old LNBA lineage was surprisingly similar across its entire range, nearly 6,000 kilometers at any given point in time. Very stable.
That is surprising. And didn't study also mention something about strong constraints and purifying selection? That sounds technical but important. Can you break that down?
Yeah, absolutely. So purifying selection basically means evolution is actively removing harmful mutations. Think of it like genetic quality control. It suggests the LNBA lineage wasn't just randomly accumulating changes, it was under pressure to stay. Well, effective in its niche, perhaps.
So less random mutation, more targeted stability.
In a way, yes. It's quite different from modern Y. pestis, which shows more neutral evolution, more random genetic drift.
So it's like this ancient version was being carefully pruned by evolution, not just branching out wildly like its modern descendants.
That's a good way to put it. It was remarkably stable.
Okay, so very stable under purifying selection. Were there any other odd evolutionary signs?
Yes, building on that stability point, the researchers also found evidence of parallel evolution. This means specific genes in different LNBA samples showed the same mutations popping up independently again and again.
Same changes happening separately.
Exactly. And interestingly, these repeated mutations were often found on what we call external branches of the evolutionary tree. Think of these as the tips of the branches infections that likely didn't lead to further transmission, like the ones found in that human and in the sheep.
Ah, so the humans and the sheep were probably evolutionary dead ends for the plague itself.
That's what the genetics strongly suggest. They got infected, but they weren't the ones maintaining the plague long-term or spreading it widely.
Which again raises that big question. If humans and sheep weren't the main drivers and it didn't use fleas efficiently, what was keeping it going and spreading it?
Precisely. We're back to that central mystery.
If fleas weren't the key and humans and sheep were dead ends, how did this LNBA lineage spread across thousands of kilometers? How did it get everywhere? The study floated a really interesting idea, didn't it? Something about birds.
Yes, a very intriguing hypothesis.
Yeah.
They suggest a highly mobile host could have been involved, like migratory birds.
Migratory birds, wow.
The idea is that birds could have been responsible for repeatedly carrying the plague out of its hidden reservoir and sort of reseeding it in different parts of Eurasia.
Like dropping plague seeds across the map?
A bit like that, yeah. Similar, perhaps, to how avian influenza spreads today via bird migration routes.
That's quite a thought. It feels like cracking a really old cold case, doesn't it? You find this one clue, the sheep, and suddenly this wild new theory about birds becomes plausible.
It certainly opens up new avenues for thinking.
Yeah.
But we have to stress, the ultimate primary reservoir for the LNBA lineage, it's still unknown. Finding that would be the next major breakthrough.
Absolutely. And this whole investigation, from decoding ancient DNA to thinking about bird migration, It just shows how powerful this field of paleomicrobiology is becoming,
It really is.
and how it's moving beyond just studying human bones. We're now looking seriously at the zooarchaeological record animal remains.
A vast, underutilized resource.
Yeah, just think about it for a second. There must be tens of thousands, maybe more, of animal bones sitting in museum storage rooms from digs done decades ago. You really have to wonder how much more we could learn about our own health history, about the origins of diseases, just by looking more closely at the animals that lived right alongside our ancestors. So let's quickly recap. We've journeyed back thousands of years to meet a mysterious ancient plague, the LNBA Yersinia pestis. We saw how finding it in a 4,000-year-old sheep completely flipped our understanding of how it might have spread without fleas. And it points to this really intricate dance between early human societies, the animals they domesticated, and these hidden wild disease reservoirs.
Absolutely, and I think this study really does set a new standard. It pushes us to look beyond just human remains when we're investigating prehistoric diseases. It leaves you with a big question to chew on. What other incredible evolutionary stories are locked away in ancient animal bones? Not just about plague, but think about all the other diseases that jump from animals to humans. What secrets are waiting in those zooarchaeological collections?
A fascinating thought to end on. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep with us.